Hello, I'm Philip Stoten. I'm here at Apex 2020 and I'm joined by Gamota from Jabil and Ranjan Chatterjee from Cimetrix. Guys, you've been doing a kind of two-man dog and pony show this last couple of days at the show, talking about the way the industries are coming together. And I think it's something that within the SMT world we really need to understand, because we can be very focused on our own little world, on our own little machine, how it connects to adjacent machines, and there's a much bigger picture than that. Dan, when you look at it from your position within Jabil, where you have a lot of stuff going on, how important is it for you to be connected to all these different sectors?
Very much so, and thank you, Phil. Most of the time we see that there's an opportunity to move along the value chain.
Yeah.
And when there's that opportunity for increasing margin, increasing free cash flow, we want to understand what are the issues associated with it. I think the best practices associated with manufacturing are ones that you could use, whether it's in the PCBA world, the OSAT world. And so for us, it's very relevant to be able to say, what equipment sets do you need? What are the standard operating procedures? And then really just it's the ecosystem. And that's why I like coming here, is because as we discussed this morning, Ranjan, we had in our audience a semiconductor person and PCBA, but no one in the OSAT world. For us, OSAT would be the logical progression on the value chain. And so understanding what equipment sets they need, what are the technologies required, and then for us to really expand our services. Because at the end of the day, we know that PCBA is good, but we need to start going up the value chain.
Yeah, and there are areas where the lines between them are so blurry and so
yes.
fuzzy that you kind of find yourself, even by accident, in different sectors. When you look at it from your point of view, and your job's kind of to connect all this stuff together, there's just so much coming from those different sectors. This trade show has been preoccupied for about 3 years by one particular standard. You go to Semicon West, it's equally preoccupied, but by a different standard, and they both want to be the ultimate panacea. That can't happen. So what does that mean when you're trying to connect equipment sets in multiple industries?
It means that lots of different standards will coexist for different reasons. Like here, actually, they are demonstrating a semi-standard, which is done by like Fuji, Yamaha, and Panasonic. They are SMT guys. So, and they are seeing their machines being used in multiple different industries. So I think from our perspective, software would be able to handle this translation, and then the value will move up to analytics. So you have connect, analyze, and act. And the connect part will become ubiquitous and kind of commodity. And then you have analyze, which now you have lots of open source tools to do that. And then act is where the wisdom comes in and where the value comes in.
Dan, you've got one or two machines in your organization, multiple sites, multiple legacies as well, because you've acquired a lot of businesses over the last few decades. How do you go about connecting those at scale, at speed, economically, to get to this? And I know you have a vision of a digital future. How do you build that very early foundation?
Honestly, it's from coming to events like this, participating in the workshops, listening to what other people have done in the past. I think you've gone to our laboratories and you've seen the equipment sets that we've had. Some of those equipment sets already have the capability of connecting. So I think to what Ranjan said, I think if you keep an open mind and develop a universal connection layer where you can do plug and play with different standards, I think that's going to be the one that wins out in the end. But having said that, I think right now most of the equipment sets you find here or at SEMI, you'll see that they have standards that they already offer. Some of the equipment providers, as you know, offer multiple communication protocols. I think for us, it's basically extracting the data, doing the analytics, as you said, and making sure that the operation of that data aggregation is actually leading to an operational efficiency improvement. What I would say is it really takes into an audit. Conduct an audit, see what type of protocols exist today, which ones you can leverage, and then you mentioned legacy equipment. Some of the legacy equipment, we're going to have to maybe look at something completely different. Maybe leverage standards from the financial industry, like AMQP. But I think if you go in being very open in terms of what standards are available, and then really leverage. Don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
I think that's the name of the game. And learn from other industries. Learn from the pharmaceutical industry. Learn from the energy industry.
Yeah.
All those industries deal with some of the problems we have, and they all have legacy equipment, and they also have new equipment. I think it's a game that we all can play in and share information.
And how far are we through that process? I mean, you want to be able to build those intelligent value layers on top of it. You want to be able to use those huge lakes of data to make better, faster decisions. You want to be able to apply machine learning and AI, but you can only do that if you have consistent, solid, reliable data. How far are we through in that process?
I think we have pockets across our organization that do a really good job. We brought in a methodology of using lighthouses. In those lighthouses, we have POCs that are ongoing. Those POCs are very important in terms of demonstrating and showing value and evidence of success, and then making a decision of where actually to deploy them across the company. But I think that it's a journey we all are sharing, and it's one that kind of at the end of the day relies on what you said, Ranjan. It's data. And we heard it this morning. They were talking about dirty data versus clean data. Why is it taking so long for us to bring that up to the table?
Yeah.
It's only today, 3 years after this journey, where people are now saying, well, is there anything that's going on within your organization talking about dirty data versus clean data?
Yeah, so it's taking these various pieces of equipment and making sure their data is clean and accurate and is connectable. Do you see Dan's experience and their journey as being typical of the industry? Is the industry kind of moving in a unified direction?
So if you look at the semiconductor industry, it did move in a unified direction. It took a little bit of push from the market forces, and then they got it going. And they had an organization called Cimetrix that was funded, and they funded and moved the thing. That doesn't exist in this industry. However, the PCB industry, their trade association, which is called TPCA, and they actually looked around, surveyed, picked a standard from another industry and made it their standard. So we have seen some good examples where people have taken other standards and done it. In the SMT, PCB assembly industry, you see a lot more variety in this, but eventually I think it will converge. It may not be at the same time frame.
Yeah, and you talked about kind of influences and pressure from different companies. Dan, do you see OEMs, your customers, saying, we've got a digital strategy, let's make sure we're aligned? What can you give us in terms of digital transparency that allows them to plan better, maybe?
I actually am really excited about the last few years, because no one has come in and said, this is the strategy we have and you have to take it on. I think most of the companies are looking for collaboration, which, as you know, we've transitioned from a build to print to now being more collaborative, taking ideas to final commercialization. The digital strategy is the same thing. Yeah. They have some ideas, they've done some of their homework, but they're really looking to us to see what is most adequate to achieve their near-term goals, but then also they're looking for the long-term vision. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think we discussed it. We have this, you mentioned the layering approach and digital twin. At the end of the day, people want to minimize the time it takes to go from idea to commercial product launch. The more data, the richness of the data, you can stop having physical builds and replace the physical builds with virtual builds. So now you can do a significant amount of your heavy lifting and where the investment is, where you're building physically products, changes to the virtual world. Yeah. So everybody sees what the end goal is, but they also realize that it can't be done by one company. Yeah. It has to be done with groups of individuals, companies coming together.
One of the things that I was really interested in, and you're kind of a trailblazer in that area, is the additive market. You have a great platform within your manufacturing, and it's kind of, to me, almost a utopian model of what we'd like to have in the SMT world, but we don't. Is that because additive is digitally native, or is it because additive has come along late enough for us to be able to inject all that smart manufacturing technique early on?
It may be a combination of both, but I think, as you said, intrinsically it's digital. It's digital driven. And so I think that, in some ways additive is unique, but I think that lots of companies that are out here would love to emulate what additive has in terms of the digital file going ultimately to an additive product. But having said that, we're learning a lot.
Yeah.
So the lessons we gain from the additive manufacturing and its inclusion in our factories, that's helping us to develop a stronger strategy to take on some of the other equipment sets.
Yeah. And Ranjan, is it just a question of get everything connected, get it connected as economically and as quickly at scale as you can, and then start to figure out where the value comes?
I think in order to do it quickly, and then you can start, the value will just start. There is a study that was done by Frost and Sullivan, where just getting it connected and showing a dashboard, they got 20% efficiency improvement by just making people aware of what is a bottleneck machine, or without even having them use the analytics data. So a lot of times just getting the data, showing it there in real time and available where you are at your desk and easily accessible is all it takes to get it moving, right? So the ROI is based on that. And most of the data that even now you can get at home, like what Nest provides and everybody, we don't have that in the manufacturing floor. So it's crazy that the same people who make those devices are not using the same thing. Yeah. So I think that's what is going to happen.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense to me. And when I go to shows like Productronica and then I go to CES, I think, this smart city and this smart factory, they're not so dissimilar. I see your manufacturing ecosystem as a really big smart city with the same complexities and the same challenges. So I think there's some exciting opportunities there, and that'll come once we get everything moving in the right direction.
And the end would be the Alexa in the factory floor, right? Where you just ask for what is the most productive machine and you just see it.
I love the idea that Dan's driving to work and he just says, "Hey Alexa, what's happening on line 4 in Penang, or what's happening with a particular product?" And you can get that information as intuitively as you get the other information that you pick up in your life, like the weather. Yeah. Guys, thanks for stopping by, chatting. Absolute pleasure. Enjoy what's left of Apex, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.